Hi guys, Chris the Ultimate Recycler, back at the shop again tonight. I've got two boxes to unpack here. It's e-waste. It's been dropped off as e-waste for recycling. It's vintage. This stuff came from a deceased estate out of the shed. The guy, I believe, was into, I'm not sure, the last e-waste boxes. We had a lot of microphones. I think he used to do a bit of recording work, maybe a bit of hi-fi gear. Not sure if he was a professional in that area, but we're getting some interesting stuff. So I'm going to unpack these two boxes. Let's see what we can save, what's of any value that we can sell in the shop, what perhaps we can repair, and what's worth scrapping, and hopefully next to nothing going to landfill. So these boxes were just carried in yesterday. I haven't had a chance to even look in them, and I wasn't going to do it without you guys either. Looks like we have some vintage bedhead lights. So it may not be audio stuff at all in this lot, but it came from the same place. We have some old drills, so whether they're worth trying to test and sell. Some cable here, I'm not sure what sort of cable that is. Some more wire. I hope we do get some more audio stuff. That was pretty cool. It looks like a telephone under there. So anyway, I won't just rummage. I'll set the camera up and we'll unbox them and we'll go through and just see what treasures we can find. Okay, let's get into this. I have my cup of tea here. Hopefully you don't get too much background noise. It's extremely windy outside and I can hear it all coming through the windows, so hopefully you guys don't hear it. This cable, it's looks like it's, oh, what is it? Oh, here we go. PVC insulated and sheathed fencing wire. Okay, so it's high voltage for an electric fence. I don't even know if they have copper in this. It doesn't feel like it. It feels very robust. Let's try a magnet on it. And yeah, it's actually magnetic. So no scrap value. I don't know if it's going to have any retail value. I'm not sure. People still use electric fences, so perhaps it's okay. I'll do a bit of checking on that, but my gut feeling on this is it's probably only $5. The insulation still feels okay. It hasn't gone hard, but we'll write down $5. But like all my videos on pricing and valuing, I'm only taking a guess when I pull it out. The first time you guys see it, it's pretty much the first time I see it. And I haven't sold electric fence cable before, so I'll have to check. But you know, if I didn't know, I'd just put a $5 tag on it, remembering that I got this e-waste for nothing. All right, we have some electrical cable here with an old plug on it. We'll chop the plug off. Where's my cutters? I like to process stuff as we go. So that just goes in the mid-grade insulated wire bin, and the plug, as I mentioned in the last video I did on e-waste, I don't save the pins. A few people have mentioned that they just twist the pins off for the brass. I don't have the time, and I don't really think it's worthwhile, but you know, everyone, depends on how you value your time. I suppose I've just spent it long enough talking about that plug that I could have twisted the plug pins off it. Anyway, let's move on. We have some PowerPoints. I think I had some of these in the last one. That's quite a vintage one. That's more modern, but it's quite dirty, so it's obviously second-hand. We have some light fittings. I do sometimes save these because they're great for hanging up lights in the shop. But generally with second-hand electrical, I'll throw it all in a box and put like $10 on the box lot and someone will grab it. There's some more of these batten fittings. I'll keep this one because when I hang shades up from, oh, it's broken there, but I've got more of those. So that bit's no good. But when I hang shades up from the ladder for display, I use these to actually hang them. Okay, as per suggestion, I think it was David suggested in a recent video, I should put something down on Christine's counter so it doesn't get too dirty. Good idea. Thanks, Dave, you probably saved me. Okay, let's get into these drills. This one's a Black & Decker. Now, Black & Decker were actually made in Australia back in this era. Croydon, Victoria, Australia, it says. They were a really good drill. It's actually a cast aluminium case. It's a bit rusty on the chuck, but it doesn't appear to be damaged other than it doesn't turn. The actual drill part seems to be locked, and I don't know. I reckon, oh, it's got the nice switch trigger too. I kind of like that. Although it's either on or off, there's no gradual drilling. It's like from 0 to 100 Ks in like straight away. I reckon I'm going to try and see if I can get that one going. So we'll take that one home. If you pick this up off street scrapping, you would probably just scrap it. It would possibly go as an electric motor. It may go as dirty aluminium. It depends on your yard. You could pull it apart and get the clean cast aluminium and the electric motor out separately, or even go so far as to get the copper wire out of the motor. I'm not doing any of that. If I was going to scrap it, I would probably put it in with electric motors. I think it would go in there and get a better $1 a kilo. Of course, I would chop the cord off as well. But I much prefer to keep things alive rather than scrap them out. I think scrap's probably the lowest value you're going to get. If this cleans up okay and runs nicely and tests safely, we could certainly get $20 or $30 for it as a vintage drill. And these things do have a lot of torque. They run really well. So I'll put that one aside for now. The other drill is a Metabo, which I think were a very good brand. I don't know if you can still buy them. This one's pretty sad though. The cord is totally perished. Extremely, you would never plug this in. You'd have instant fire. It's very hard, it's melted. The casing is not cracked, but it's very rough. It's lost a lot of paint. This one at least does turn. The chuck's very rusty. But you know what? It might actually be fun to see if we can fix up as well. I'll do some checking just in case they are very sought after. It appears to have a solid plastic case, but the gearbox is cast aluminium, the gearbox part. So I don't think I'm going to scrap it just yet. We'll see if we can save it. I'll check out some values though. If they're very common and they don't bring very much, it's made in Western Germany. You know, it's easy enough to put a new cord in it and clean the chuck up. So we'll see how we go. Okay, what's in here? There's a yellow padded bag full of something. Ooh, I don't know. Looks like bits of something. Okay. That's a solenoid. Now hopefully there's a bit of music in the background. Hopefully you can't hear it hardly at all because the pub is in the next block here and they've got a live band and I think they've got their doors open and the music's playing right down the street. There's a couple of solenoid valves here. I have no idea what this is, but the solenoids may be handy for something. I wonder if we've got any clues. There's another solenoid. I think that's about it. So it's some sort of mechanical, possibly homemade, some electric actuator for something. These look like connecting rods. No idea what this used to be or do. That would probably, the pin I think fits into there. Maybe not. So I don't know. I think these are probably just scrap metal, but I might have to investigate a little bit further. The inventor in me wants to keep them because, you know, every now and again you need a good solenoid, don't you? They'll be easy to check. Possibly I could sell them rather than scrap them because solenoids are only going to go as electric motors and they don't weigh a great deal. They'd be easy to check. I assume they're 240 volt ones. There should be some sort of indicator on them somewhere. And the aluminium brackets, there's really hardly any scrap value. I think I could put these in a box in the shop. Assorted solenoids. Look at that mechanism. That's pretty cool. So I reckon a budding inventor would love to have something like that. And who knows, maybe I could, or someone could rig up some automatic dog feeding device with a press of a button from on the couch. Let your imagination go wild. That's what inventors do. So, all right, we'll just put that stuff aside. Value-wise, I wouldn't scrap it. I think I'd put that in a tub and say inventor's solenoid kit, $5 the lot, untested, and see how we go. Okay, let's delve deep into this box. We have a little bit of a cord. This is a remote control, a wired remote control. So that's getting vintage, isn't it? Sony RM75T. We have play stop for, it might be an early Sony video player remote control. I know some of the early TV remote controls had cords, although the very first TV remote controls were where the kids say, "Get up and turn the telly off, please." I think that's going to have some vintage value. I'll have to do some checking on Google and see if I can find out what it suits. I'm assuming it's a video, but it must have been one of the first ones. So we'll check that one out. This bit of cord here, we'll just chop the wire off, get a bit more mid-grade wire, and we'll put that outlet in with our electrical bits and pieces. Okay, what's this one? It's a electric fence, maybe a tester. Graduated electric fence tester, measured in volts, read instructions. So I'm not sure if that works or not. I don't think it's going to have a lot of value. I'll just maybe check that as well to see if they're of any value. Don't know how old it would be. I'm assuming it's probably, most of this stuff seems to be 70s or 80s. We'll check that one out too. Now we do have a telephone in here, and it's a good one. Look at this. A nice early black Bakelite telephone. It's the pyramid shape, so these ones generally get pretty good money. So it's your rotary dial. It looks to be in pretty good condition. Very dirty from shed storage, but doesn't appear to be damaged. No cracks in the case. PMG 35. It would be 1930s, I would think. I think that's what they call the pyramid shaped phone. I'm thinking cleaned up that could be worth $200 to $300. That's a nice phone. It doesn't matter if they work or not. In fact, you can get them reconfigured with modern internals, but then you don't have any way of dialing them. They're mainly just, it has got a crack. That's a shame. It's cracked in the front there. So that's pulled the value back quite a lot, but it's still got to be at least a $100 phone. We'll do some checking on that. It's well worth cleaning up. Okay, a little bit of audio. We have some sort of audio cable. Not much value there. Oh, we have some more of these. I got some of these. There's two of these. I got one of these in a box recently, which I priced out at $20. It's some sort of foot switch. I'm not exactly sure what for. These are both the same. They look in really good nick. They're 1950s, judging from the hammer tone paint and the Bakelite fitting. So I don't know. I haven't sold the other one as yet, but I did have $20 on it, so we might see how we go there. We have another solenoid, so that can add to our inventor's kit. Just a piece of wire here. Not sure. I think we'll just chop the wire off for scrap. We have another. Oh, that's another switch, but it's slightly different because it's a flat, and it says backspace forward. Yeah. Maybe it's for when you're recording, say on a reel-to-reel tape player, and you can actually operate the recording mechanism from your foot switch. Don't know. We'll have to check a value on that too. Alright, we have some more solenoid bits and pieces, and a Bakelite socket that can just go with our electrical stuff. Oh, this box has got all the goodies in it. A vintage Bakelite plug. That's like it's similar to an old kettle cord, but it's a different configuration. That cord might be worth keeping because it's a specialised plug. The cord's in good condition. Usually with these I would chop the cord off and put it in my mid-grade wire. This plug is an Australian made ring grip Bakelite plug, and I actually get $5 each for those plugs in the shop, especially for the guys that repair old radios or vintage appliances, and they always like to get the original Bakelite plugs, and it's in good nick. So there's $5 worth of value there for me, just the plug. But I don't think I'll chop this one up, because one day, maybe in the next box of stuff from this shed, we might find something that actually needs this cord. Okay, another Bakelite light fitting. It's had a bit chopped out of it. It can just go with our electrical stuff. And this is a Bakelite switch. It looks like an early doorbell switch. That's pretty cool. That might be worth selling. There's some cool stuff in the bottom of this box. Here's an electric motor from something. I don't know what, and I don't think it's of any value other than a scrap motor. It's a 240 volt one. It's too heavy for a turntable motor, I would have thought. I might just check the brand in case it is a turntable motor and it might be quite desirable. Yeah, we won't throw that in the scrap bins just yet. It's worth doing a bit of research on that one. Down the bottom here we have a transformer out of something. It's someone's pulled something apart. I don't think I have a use for that. I will pop the fuse out, we'll keep the fuse, but the transformer can just go in the scrap transformer bin. But I always like to save the fuses, so that's good. Okay, it looks like we have some parts and things down the bottom here. There's a selection of little brass terminals, they're not used. And there's some cardboard boxes down the bottom, and I don't know what's in them, so this is kind of exciting. Let's open it on camera. Hopefully there's nothing alive in here. Ooh, interesting. They look like record player, turntable parts, little rollers, a nice heavy knob of something. They're just bits and pieces. It could be off like a reel-to-reel tape player again, possibly, but just a lot of parts and screws and a little VU meter perhaps, and even a rubber belt. So they're parts off something that's obviously been dismantled because there's lots of little screws in there. It's not going to be much value in that. There's another box in here. Let's see if it has more parts. And it does, and it looks like it's the same machine. Another rubber belt, another meter. Alright, we'll keep those together. And there's another box in the corner which finishes up this one, and this looks like some radio valves, a couple more vintage electrical fittings, and I've got a good stock of radio valves at home. I'll just go through my catalogue lists and see if I need these ones. I do keep quite a lot of valves at home, even though I'm not really getting into valve radio repairs at this stage. I do plan to, but I've got a lot to learn. Yeah, they're all valves in their boxes. Some radio valves, especially amplifier valves, can be worth a lot of money, and I often check eBay just to see what the valves go for. But I'll take these home and I'll add them to my collection unless I've got a number of the same one, and then I'll bring them back to the shop and sell them. I do have a couple of boxes of radio valves in the shop. Some of the ones I put $5 each, some of these ones I just put $1 each, and people buy them. So I have to take them home and check them. Value wise, I don't know, there's not going to be a lot of value in there, I wouldn't expect, unless there's a rear valve, so I'll get back to you on that lot as well. That finishes this cardboard box. Oh, there's another package of parts down the bottom. Yeah, just some more terminals. So we better quickly go through the other box. Okay, let's get through this box. I don't think this one will take as long. A heap of wire, and it looks like, oh, that's what it is. It's a compact, powerful, battery-operated power drill. That's what the box says. Hang on, let's move the camera across a bit so you can see here. It looks like a little handheld 12-volt drill. That's pretty cool. Switch on the back. I don't think I've ever seen one of those. It's pretty dirty. I think I'll take that one home and clean it up as well. We'll keep the box with it. I don't think it's worth a lot, but it's certainly worth more than scrap. Okay, these bedside reading lamps, vintage retro reading lamps, if I can get them out. They're very grubby. There's a broken switch in that one. They are aluminium. They're an anodised aluminium. If they were coloured ones, I'd be more keen to get them fixed up. But being just a plain aluminium, I don't think it's worth the hassle to try and fix them up. The cord's been cut off them. But I might save that switch. Those vintage switches are quite handy. They suit the old planet lamps. But the rest of it may just go in the scrap aluminium bin. Let's see what the other ones are like. That's a larger, almost a gold coloured one, but again it's very rough. They don't bring enough money to make them worth fixing up. I think they'll probably just be aluminium. Again, I think this whole box is just these lights, so that won't take long at all to do. Little electrical connector I'll keep. I'll chop the wire out, but we'll just probably, maybe I'll save the Bakelite fittings in there. But pretty much the rest of them are just going for scrap aluminium. And that's all it was in that box, so that was quick. Alright, so I'll dismantle these, I'll show you what scrap we get out of them. I'll process all the other stuff I've talked about, we'll get a list of prices, and I'll get back to you soon. So I'm home in my shed this morning, and I've just dismantled and flattened these bed head lights. Got a few bits and pieces, let me show you what I've got. Just some scrap random shred steel, a bit more wire which can go straight in with our other mid-grade wire. We'll weigh that up later. I got these brackets that the light assembly is pivoted on. So they're a pivoting bracket. They've got brass nuts on each end. They're adjustable, as you can see. And also these other ones have a little ball and socket type swivel on them. They could just go in the irony brass, or I could strip them down for pure brass, but they don't weigh very much. And I reckon they'll be handy because I do want to make some quirky industrial style reading lamps. And these are the right thread for light fittings, so I'll keep those for a future project. Value-wise, yeah, as I said, if you were just a scrapper, throw them in the irony brass. They're mostly brass. Or could I sell them otherwise? Look, maybe I could put them in a little container at the shop and maybe ask $5, but I'm going to keep them. I won't value them at anything for now. A little bit of other brass and copper to go in the scrap bins. All these Bakelite light fittings I am keeping because, again, I've mentioned they're handy for actually value adding to a shade, so I can hang it in the shop. I'll show you some now. I get lots of these vintage glass shades, and rather than just get $5 or even maybe $10 for the shade, I can have it set up like this with the original Bakelite or an original Bakelite fitting and a light globe, and actually have them wired and turned on, and then you've got like $25 worth. So good value adding from these pieces. The aluminium from the lights themselves I've flattened with a hammer, and there's a fair bit of aluminium. It's fairly thick gauge, and that little stack there weighs pretty much a kilo. So about $1, maybe a bit over $1, depending on the price of aluminium. You may remember me saying that I wasn't going to keep aluminium anymore because I don't have the room to store it, and it does take up a lot of space. When it's flattened, it's not too bad, but things like aluminium saucepans do take up a lot of space, and I'm going to be really tough with myself and try not to keep them. I will put these in a bin. The effort of flattening them out on my anvil is fully endorsed by my physio, saying it's very good shoulder exercise. Do 10 of these every morning and every evening, and as a byproduct we have flat aluminium. Of course, my physio may not actually agree with that, but that's what I'm reading into it. What else do we have? Some vintage light switches, and I did mention that these switches are the same that go in the vintage planet lamps and a few other nice old lamps. That one appears to be in good order, so I'm keeping that as a replacement down the track. This one has the plunger broken, but I have dismantled these switches before and had to repair them because I didn't have spares, so it might still be handy for a spare. There's a couple of little connectors, a little bit of hardware. So that's the lamps. Now let's get back to this. I believe these are parts out of a reel-to-reel tape player, and I did a bit of research online, and I searched vintage reel-to-reel tape players that had chrome knobs, and I just went through Google Pictures, and eventually I found a model, and I was trying to work out what brand we had here, but then I remember on that box originally it had the brand of Tandberg, I think it was. So I searched those ones online, and I found a model, I think it was a model 12, that looked to have these exact knobs. It didn't have the same VU meters. They may be out of a different model, but I've pretty well established what item these parts are out of, including all the hardware, and also this electric motor, which we will test. But I did a bit of checking on this, and it's a Pabst. Where are we? Where's the brand? Pabst electric motor, which apparently are a very good quality motor used in a lot of reel-to-reel players. And as I suspected at the start of this video, it's too big really for a turntable, but the large commercial style reel-to-reel players would have had a motor like that. So I'm presuming it's out of the same unit. I'm going to probably do an eBay listing for this for parts. I don't know how we're going to go. I will show you the results. I might do a separate video on that because there's something else we're going to eBay out of this lot as well. So all that, I'll do some photographs and list it on eBay, and I don't know, I might start it at $50 and see how I go. I tend to nominate $50 as a starting bid, mainly because I couldn't be bothered packaging anything for less than $50. So we will do that, and I will do a separate video to show you the results. The other thing we're going to eBay are some of these radio valves. So I'm in my little room now. I've just been doing some checking on these valves. Some of them are quite common. I checked my stocks and I only have one of these ones, the 5U4GBs. I like to keep a few of each type that I find, so I'll keep those two. But I do have plenty of these EC83s, which are the same, I think, if I remember, as the 12AX7, something like that. And they're an amplifier valve, and they're actually quite sought after. And there's 6 of these. I think they're new old stock. But the problem with valves is it's very hard to tell if they're new old stock or not, because most of the time the packets have been opened and you don't know if a technician has bought a new valve, replaced the valve in a piece of equipment and put the second-hand valve back in the box. So it's really hard to tell. I have got a valve tester here, a really cool vintage piece of test equipment. I can't say I'm very experienced at these things. I've had this valve tester for a long time and I haven't really used it very much at all. I've got one of these valves in here now. And basically, without giving you a whole video on how to test valves, you scroll through the data here to work out where you've got to have the settings. So this one is, I think it was the 12AX7 was the comparison. So it tells us to set the filament voltage at 12 and to set these, I think that switch there goes to... position 4 switch goes to F. So it's just a matter of setting all the different things. I forget where the load is. The load, so it should be on 3. So I'll turn that round to 3. So it's quite an involved process to test the valves, but we do get a meter here that basically tells us if it's a good valve or not. So I think I've got all the settings okay. Let's power the thing up and see what the valve reads. It's doing a bit of humming. The valves take a while to warm up, of course. And there goes our needle, and look at that. It's reading as a good valve. Now I think that tests the emissions of the valve. I don't know a lot of the technical details. We can also test the valve for shorts by flicking around a few switches. But how this reminds me of Willy Wonka and the chocolate factory, where there's a meter that says you're a good egg or a bad egg. Well, in this case, this valve's a good one. So I have tested the rest of these. They all test good. So I'm going to throw them on eBay and we'll see how we go. As far as valuations for this video goes, they seem to be getting, they're all over the shop with prices, but they seem to be getting between 30 to 100. Sometimes someone will put a group of them on and they'll make, 80. It's really hard to pinpoint a figure, but I didn't find any that didn't sell. So I'm going to list all 6 here, and I'm going to start them at $50. I'm pretty sure they'll sell for 50. They may go higher. We'll see how the auction ends up, and I will include that in a separate video. I'm also going to try and sell these 6GW8s. Now, I think these are new stock. The box is really clean. Doesn't look like they've even been opened. And on my little dial here, I think my valve tester is actually too old. It doesn't list these valves here. So I'll be trying to sell them untested. I might just start the pair at $30 because I did find quite a few of those that sold as well. Some of the other valves that were in this box, these ones here, were very common valves, and I did find quite a few that only had a couple of dollars on them and didn't sell, or it only sold for a small amount. That's an 1S2, and this one I think was an extremely common valve, 6BL8. So any of you that are into vintage radios will probably recognize these numbers, and I have found lots of those over the years. So I'm just going to put them in the shop at $1 each, but we will try and eBay these ones. And these two I won't write down any values. They can go into my stack here. So let's get back to these drills. Let's revisit what value they'll have as far as this deal goes. I'm not going to do any repair work and add a lot of labor to getting value out of this deal. We'll just value them as they are. And if we do any restorations, we'll do them in a future video. So I did look up the Metabo drill. There was quite a few on eBay secondhand. Some of them sold. They didn't get a great deal. It's probably worth trying a new cord on it, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to chop the cord off because this cord is totally dangerous. So we'll chop the cord off. It's got to come off anyway, and we'll see what the drill weighs, because most people would put this straight in the scrap. I think you'd get away with putting it in with electric motors and get around about $1 a kilo. So off with the cord. It doesn't look like it's the original plug anyway, so that's got to come off too. And that gives us a little bit more mid-grade wire for the scrap bin. And the plug can go, it is a rewirable one, it can go in with our electrical fittings. So we'll just check what this drill weighs. And we've got about 2.5 kilos. So as scrap metal, maybe a couple of dollars to go in with electric motors. You wouldn't probably get away with a whole load of drills as electric motors, but I think one would be fine. Certainly got a bit of weight to it. But I'll probably throw a cord in it and just see how it works. It might be a good rough and ready drill for around the shed here. A little bit of bearing noise, but it's probably worth trying a cord. Anyway, it's only worth a couple of dollars for scrap as far as this video goes. The Black & Decker I think is a better drill, and I think it would clean up nicely. We did have the issue that it's seized, but then it's got a high ratio. It's got a 2-speed gearbox in it. So I think it's probably just, because it's geared so well, it's probably just tight to turn the motor. Let's plug it in and see what happens. Okay, it's plugged in through an isolation transformer to give us a bit of protection. We have power. Let's see if it actually has an issue in the gearbox or not. Ah, that sounds okay. There's a few sparks coming out of the brushes. I think you can see that through the camera, but actually it sounds pretty good. So I reckon we'll maybe put that on our appliance tester to make sure it's properly earthed and everything. But I might pull it apart and just re-grease it, maybe clean the chuck up. And there's a nice vintage solid metal construction drill. The cord's good. I think that's probably going to be a $20 or $30 drill. Almost collectible, Australian made, certainly very usable. Okay, time to test our little 12-volt drill now. I don't have a car battery accessible, but I do have an old style battery charger. You can't do this with a smart charger. So what do we have? That's negative. This is the battery charger I used to use for electrolysis. And it can deliver about 2 amps, I think. So hopefully it's got enough to drive the drill. I wouldn't think the drill would draw any more than 2 amps. Let's see if it works. Nothing. Oh, it's trying. Okay, I can feel it buzzing. Oh, look at that. It's trying to go. It's obviously very tight in the bushes. Now, I won't keep it going because it'll burn it out. It's probably well worth just pulling it apart and lubing the bushes, and then we'll give it another test. So we probably need to see if that's going to work before we can price it. I might just go and try that out. Well, it's got plenty of grease in there, and that doesn't spin too badly. We might just put a little bit of light oil on the bush. A bit of spray lube will do for now. Yeah, that's freed it up quite well, actually. There's one little gear stuck in there. We'll take that one out, and then we'll plug the motor in without the gearbox part on and just see if it spins over all right. Now we'll have some power, and we'll see if the motor spins. That sounds alright. I think the grease has just gummed things up a little bit. I can't really get into the bush in there. As it warms up, it'll distribute the grease a bit. I think that's going to work. Let's put it back together. Okay, it's back together. How's it going to go? Oh, not very well. It's drawing a lot of current off the battery charger. yeah, I don't think it's worth trying to fix anymore. It only goes through bushes. There's no bearings. As you saw, the grease is pretty messy. I think this can just go straight in with the electric motors. Remember that when this was made, it was probably the bee's knees. What a great idea. You can have a drill in your car and you can use it when you're away from the mains power. But of course, now we've got rechargeable drills, cordless drills. This is a little bit redundant now. So even in working order, I would have struggled to get $10 for it. It's not worth going to the trouble of fixing it anymore. So let's turn the power off and we'll chop the cord off. I don't think there's any usable parts I really want out of that. The switch isn't much, so I don't think the chuck's worth saving. It's a bit rusty. So that's just going to go with our electric motors as well. And some more cord for our copper wire bin. We also have the alligator clips, which will go in a tub at the shop. And the box can go in the recycle bin for cardboard. Okay, time to wind up this video with our Notepad, which I know you all love. Look at that, 350. I went straight to the final figure. Let's see how we got that. The electric fence cabling on that original reel of cable, I did up to 10. I think I'll get 10 for it. You can actually still buy them on eBay, various lengths. So I think the insulated cable is for running the power to your electric fence underground, so that it obviously doesn't short, and then you couldn't obviously have your electric fence insulated or it wouldn't work. The other stuff as I went through, that Sony remote was actually for an early VCR, I think the Betamax ones. There was a couple selling on eBay, so they do sell. The thing was an electric fence tester. The Bakelite phone, I haven't got it with me now. It cleaned up quite well. I reckon I'll get 100 for it, even with a bit of a crack in the front. The pyramid ones are much more sought after than the later 1950s ones that are pretty common. Now the foot switches, both in the last video and there's 3 in this lot, they're actually for a transcriber. So I believe they work so that when you're actually transcribing an audio like voice into text, you can use the foot pedal to actually stop the, in this case a reel-to-reel player. You could actually stop it or go back a little bit so that you can pace the audio to the speed that you can write, and it's easy to stop and control with a foot pedal. So I think that's what they're for. You can still buy them for modern equipment. So I've changed the prices down. I had $20 on the other one. I've made these all $10 each, and I will reprice the other one at 10. There's probably less demand for these older style that plug into a reel-to-reel player than what there is for new ones. They've probably got USB plugs on them. What else have we got? Now, I'm going to try and get $50 for those parts, all those reel-to-reel parts, and the transformer that I pulled out is actually from the same machine. It says Tandberg there, so we'll put that with them in the eBay listing. We'll see how we go. That transformer was only going to ever be worth about 50 cents for scrap, so if we can pull $50 for parts, you know, worth a try. We'll see how we go. I'm not overly confident on that one, but someone might be after them. The valves, I've grouped all the valves together at $100. I think we'll probably actually clear that figure, and I will do a follow-up video, as I've mentioned, on these eBay items just to see how they pan out. But they should, I reckon they'll do quite well. The Black & Decker drill, we just need to test for safety, but it seems to run fine. The electric motors for scrap, which really was just those 2 drills that aren't really worth doing. Although, as I said, I think I might throw a cord in the Metabo and it might be a good drill for home here. 3 kilos, so I wrote down around about $3. And there was around about $3 worth of insulated copper wire as well. The only other thing I've put in here was sundries, $5. That includes little bits of scrap, a few bits of hardware. I've also keeping these bits and pieces. I really didn't write them down at all. Box of random electrical pieces, and there was 3 other valves that I'll put in the shop for in the $1 box, and that's where we found $350 total. Now, as I said, that will depend on what the eBay auctions do, but pretty cool. Hey, saved a whole heap of e-waste from the waste stream. Some of it will go back into circulation for its original purpose. Other stuff, wait for it, might be handy one day. And we only have a little bit of landfill. Some of these were a bit brittle and they broke when I took them apart. And you know what? If this padded bag was in better condition, I would actually still use it to post something around the world from an eBay sale. So there's hardly any landfill, which is hugely satisfying. And we've got some pretty cool stuff to play with. So stay tuned to my channel, guys, and see how these eBay auctions go. We've got the other lot of auctions almost finishing soon. I don't know when you'll see this video. They're going to be a bit jumbled up. But now that I'm back into eBay mode, I'm going to start clearing stuff out. And if you like watching the auctions finish and seeing how things sell, I'll probably do a lot more of those auction videos as well. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.